how we are so quick to be negative. And I talked about how we need to stop being so negative, especially when it comes to money. And the earlier you start exposing children to negative ideas, thoughts, and mantras, especially around money, the more likely they are to grow up and have a negative relationship with money. And that whole live was just, it was probably a couple minutes of the live where I was talking about like negativity and I answered some questions. But anyway, the reason why I bring this up is because today I got an email and it really, I mean, it brought me to tears. Like, I'm not even going to lie. And I did not reach out to this person and ask them if I could share the email. So I'm not going to say their name or any extremely personal, sensitive information that they shared, but I just wanted to put it on my channel. I wanted to share it live because I mean, y'all, I was crying. So it goes, I just watched one of your recent live videos mentioning negative reactions to your videos and content, and I just wanted to share my positive story. You gave my daughter and I a shout out about 7 years ago on your YouTube channel with the topic of money being taboo. At that time, I was pretty much living paycheck to paycheck with a minimal amount of savings, making about $50,000 a year in a middle management retail job. I had just started my credit journey, so I watched your videos on YouTube that taught me helpful tips. My parents have never talked to me about money, not once in 37 years of life. I used to be a bit resentful that they did not share financial knowledge, but I realized that they were just human and I have forgiven them. At the age of 30, around the time of the shout out, I decided to make a drastic change to improve my life. I took a $15,000 a year pay cut to join an electrical trade as an apprentice. I moved back in with my parents and cut all my cost of living down to the bare bones. Y'all. After 4 years, I became a journeyman electrician. After 2 more years, I became a master electrician. I'm now an electrical superintendent in charge of a $30 million budget at the job. I currently make about $160,000 a year and have an emergency fund and a 401k. My daughter, this is where like I started crying because remember, she was 7 years old when they tuned into my YouTube and I gave them a shout out. And I don't remember this, but it like these type of messages come to me and it's just like, oh my gosh, but let me finish. My daughter is now 18 years old and has graduated high school with an associate's degree from college as well at the same time. Okay, sis. She has a credit score of 792 since I took your advice and put her as an authorized user on my credit cards at the age of 14. I hope I set her up with some financial knowledge and skills that I didn't have at her age. I even took your advice of getting a side hustle and became an electrical instructor to young apprentices at a trade school. Teaching has been one of the most rewarding jobs I've had. I agree with that. I can now relate to the passion that you have for teaching others financial literacy. I bought your book and we really enjoyed reading it. I'm glad that you're back on YouTube and I don't have really social media other than LinkedIn. Oh my goodness. So I read that like raw and I really didn't even reach out to this person. I'm going to reach out to them and I'm going to ask them if it's okay for me to share it on LinkedIn and for me to, share a little bit more about the details that they shared. Maybe the photo, there's a photo in the email of this man with his daughter and like seriously seeing that and reading that, I was like in tears earlier today. I was just like, oh my gosh, like I would never have expected to get a note like that. I would never have expected to get something like that from somebody. It was so heartwarming. And it's wild because ever since I started YouTubing really early on, I would get messages from people being like, oh, my family's coming to the United States from India and we don't really know, how the credit system works there. Should we get credit cards? Should we get a bank account? And watching your content has really helped us. You just never know, like who your content is going to reach. So anyway, I wanted to start with that. It was emotional for me today and it was such a sweet note. And I just wanted to share that because I was literally on here ranting yesterday about how some people can be really negative, no matter how much you work to research or how hard you work to put out content that's educational or engaging. Like people always got something negative to say, it feels like. But at the same time, that's not true. So many people also constantly have positive things to say. So that was just such a nice balance. And I'm so glad that I got that note in my email inbox today. I get so many like that, but this one was especially heartwarming because it was multi-generational. It was like him with his daughter at 7 years old, and then now her being 18, graduating and getting not only a high school diploma, but also an associate's degree at the same time, and having excellent credit because he watched my videos and put her on early. Oh, one thing I do want to say about that before I talk about mid-year financial review is that if you are going to do what this person did and add a minor, or if you're a minor watching me right now, you're under 18 and you want somebody, an adult in your life, to add you as an authorized user on your credit card, it's not a bad idea to do it as long as the primary account holder has good credit and is willing to add the minor on as an authorized user. But I would definitely say if you are not going to be using credit at all because you're 14 years old, 13 years old, 7 years old, and you're an authorized user on a credit card, you should have the adult in your life spend some time to freeze your credit. Because once you add an authorized user on the credit card and there is a credit card out there with your name on it, a lot of the research shows that that kind of makes you a little bit more susceptible to some of the fraud that happens where people start doing credit card fraud and pretending to be you, using your credit card to like buy stuff online and pretend it's you. So the easiest way to prevent people from being able to like hack your credit and like you and use your name or your identity to do identity fraud and like open other accounts in your name, the easiest way to prevent that is to actually freeze the credit of the person who's not really using it. Now, even if you're an adult, I recommend you should freeze your credit anyway, because most of the time you're not really applying for credit throughout the year. You might have like, if you're looking for an apartment, you might have a credit check coming up with the landlord running your credit when they look at your rent application. If you're going to buy a home and you're saving up a down payment and that's coming up in, a year, you know that when the time comes to apply for the mortgage loan, they're going to check your credit. But between now and then, you shouldn't really be doing anything with your credit. You should just be letting it accumulate positive credit history and making payments on time. So I would say freeze your credit. If your credit is not frozen right now, I want to say it's on page 192 of my book, if I'm not mistaken. But check fact check me on that, but it's definitely in the credit chapter where I recommend that you freeze your credit, and I go through step by step exactly what to do to freeze your credit. If you have a child that is an authorized user on your credit card, you should freeze their credit. It's just a little bit annoying because you can't do it online unless you're an adult. If you're over 18, you can freeze your own credit online. You can do it with the 3 credit bureaus, Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. Just go to their website and go through the freeze your credit steps. Click on it and go through it. You'll have to create a special PIN, and you have to remember that code, save it in your password manager or whatever, because when you want to unfreeze your credit or lift the credit freeze, you need that same PIN number to unfreeze it. But if you're under 18, if you're a minor, if you're a child, then I think, or it might be under 16, but if you're a minor, then the adult in your life is going, your parent or legal guardian is going to have to submit paperwork, mail the papers to the credit unions, not the credit unions, to the credit bureaus, in order for them to freeze your credit if you're under 16, I think, or under 18. So it's just really, really important that it is frozen to protect you from identity theft. It is a little bit annoying because you have to do some papers, file some papers. And also, if you're an adult, go online. The online portal is really easy. So it took me probably maybe 10 minutes to freeze all 3 of my credit reports with Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. It really doesn't take more than 10, 15 minutes. And it's worth it because I know a lot of people who've been dealing with identity theft online, people opening loan accounts, borrowing stuff with their credit profile. And then, it ends up on your credit report, hurts your credit. And then you have to dispute it and deal with that. And you could just save yourself the headache by freezing your credit. And then you can lift the freeze if you ever need someone to check your credit for a credit application. All right, I just wanted to mention that because that seemed important there. Okay, what's up, everybody who's on here live? I see a bunch of people on Instagram. I see a bunch of people on YouTube also. If you have questions about anything that I mentioned, just drop it in the chat. But I'm gonna pivot a little bit. It's a little late, so I don't want to be on here too long. But I came into my hotel room and I started thinking today, like, it's already about to be July, like in 2 weeks, right? Like Juneteenth is tomorrow. Then we have 4th of July. Then, August is pretty much the last little bit of summer. Then we have back to school in September, Halloween in October, Thanksgiving in November, winter holidays in December, New Year's in January, Valentine's Day in February. It feels like around this time is like back to back to back to back with things that are just coming at your budget, taking money away from your budget. So this is a really good time right now in this next 2 week stretch before, that July, like official 6 months left for the year point hits, this is a perfect time to sit down and do a mid-year financial review or a mid-year financial audit, mid-year financial checkup. But the point is, you really want to go through at least the big four, what I call the big four. You don't have to go through every detail of your finances, but the big four: banking, credit, investing, and insurance, right? These are the big ones. You really want to make sure, like, and obviously banking goes with budgeting, right? So I would say banking and budgeting, credit, investing, and insurance. Now, if you are not set up with a high yield savings account right now, that's for banking, that's off the bat, right? The first thing you have to do. Like, how can it be July 2025 and you don't yet have a high yield savings account set up? You need a high yield savings account because the interest rate that you're going to get on that is way higher than the interest rate you're getting on a traditional savings account. And you're probably not getting any in a checking account. There's very few interest bearing checking accounts. And even if they do give you interest, it's peanuts. You really want to maximize the interest you're getting on your savings. Right now, my high yield savings account is about 4%. And if you are not close to 4% or at 4%, this is a good time to start looking to see, can you get closer to 4%? Because interest rates are like a little higher than they've been historically. Usually interest rates on a savings account is like, 2%, maybe 1% for high yield accounts. So the fact that they're 4% right now, it's still pretty high. And the Federal Reserve hasn't lowered interest rates yet. So there's time to really take advantage of that high rate. High yield savings accounts. Make sure it's FDIC insured, and make sure that you understand the basic rules of the account. If there's a minimum amount, if you need to set up direct deposit, I like the least amount of restrictions on a high yield savings account possible. I don't want to have a certain amount in there. I don't want to have to hit that certain balance in order to move up to another higher interest rate tier. Look, simpler the better. So try to find a simple account that doesn't have a ton of restrictions or requirements, and just move your savings that you have into that high yield savings account. Let it sit there and start collecting that interest. I honestly have probably gotten like over $3,000 of interest this year just from the interest payments that keep getting into monthly interest payments that are deposited into my bank account, my checking, in my high yield savings account every single month, just because of the 4% interest. And I have a big emergency savings fund, right? Just in case anything goes wrong. I keep a lot of cash in my high yield savings account. So that we're not talking about 0.01% that you might get at a traditional major savings account at a major bank. So it's worth it. It's worth it even if you have $1,000, if you have $500, if you have $5,000 or $10,000, definitely in that case you should be having that cash sitting in a high yield savings account. I see somebody asked about CD. Can we put it in a CD instead? You can, but just recognize that money is going to be frozen. So with the certificate of deposit, which is for short called a CD, you're freezing the money for a set period of time. It's not like a high yield savings account is not frozen. You could take it out anytime that you need to and access it anytime for an emergency. Whereas with a CD, you're going to give them a certain term, whether it's 6 months, a year, 5 years, where the money's frozen and locked away for that time. And if you need to take it out before that time runs out, you're going to get charged penalties, because you unlocked it before it was supposed to. So just be mindful that a CD is much better for a big savings goal that you haven't hit yet. Like, oh, I want to pay for my wedding in 6 months, or I want to take a vacation when I graduate in 8 months, or I want to, put a down payment on my house in 9 months. Those kinds of things are a good opportunity for you to take the cash you have so far and lock it for those 6, 8, 9 months. So to make sure you don't touch it, to make sure you don't spend it, right? So that's the first thing, is banking. You have to make sure you have your bank accounts set up correctly. Make sure you have the right types of savings accounts, a high yield savings account. And if you have any big goals that are not coming up for a little while and you want to make sure the cash is set aside so you don't spend it, maybe consider a CD or certificate of deposit. The second thing, obviously, after banking is going to be budgeting, which comes kind of with banking. Just really making sure that you have a handle of your cash flow. If you had certain goals that you wanted to hit with your budget that you haven't hit, like say maybe you wanted to hit your first $500 of savings and somehow you only hit 200. Okay, well, why? Like, your job is to find out why. What happened? Is it that you didn't earn as much as you thought from side hustles? Is it that you ordered a little bit too much Uber Eats? Is it that, you weren't, accounting for some things that came up, unexpected expenses? What happened that you weren't able to hit that 500 savings goal? And at this point, this is a great time in the middle of the year to sit down and come up with a plan for, in these next 6 months, how am I going to make sure I do get back on track? And it's not about, putting all this pressure on yourself and being really hard on yourself if you didn't reach the goal. It's literally just a matter of pivoting and redirecting so you can kind of get right back on track. And if you need to readjust those goals and be like, okay, you know what, 500 was just too aggressive, I was doing too much, fine, then just create a new goal. Maybe the new goal is 400 savings, right? But you have to like check in on yourself. And the mid-year financial review is a perfect way to do it, because you literally are at the halfway point of the year, giving you a nice 6 months left to try to hit those goals. You could set 6 monthly goals, one for each month. You can set one every 3 months and do two major goal check marks. Or you can just kind of, say, in the next 6 months, I want to do this, and then check back in December. I like to have little goalposts along the way, just because I know, like, 6 months is a long time. Like, you write it down, say, oh, I want to do this by December. And then, like, July, August, September, October comes by and you haven't been really looking at it. So like smaller checkpoints, I think, or shorter checkpoints are usually better. All right, let's see. Great content as always. My NGPF sent an error code during the survey, sent an email about it. Been trying to get the last hour. So, just, yep. If you just email me, I'll help you with that. Today, shout out to all the teachers who were in Dallas, because I'm in Dallas. I'm in Houston right now, but I just flew to Houston from Dallas. But I was in Dallas this morning for a teacher training. So if there's anybody here who was at that teacher training today, extra shout out, special shout out to you, because it was an amazing day of really going through, like, what is the curriculum available for teachers. And Texas is so close to being a state that has that new law that requires financial literacy to be a required class for all students. So really getting the teachers excited, getting them ready to teach, showing them some of the activities and games that they can use to make the class fun and interactive, instead of just like, here's a worksheet, here's a textbook, watch this video. Really doing things that bring the class to life. So we had fun. It was a lot of fun in Dallas. And then tomorrow we're going to do the same thing in Houston. So I'm really, really excited for that. And if you attended either of those events, shout out to you and thank you for coming. All right, so we talked about banking, we talked about budgeting. I think it is super important to do a credit review. I talked a little bit about this, right, with the father-daughter situation in the email. Check up on your credit. Like, does it make sense to add your niece, nephew, little brother, little sister, your daughter or son as an authorized user? Think about credit as not just your credit. We think usually, I mean, American culture is so individualistic. Western culture is so individualistic, where you think about my credit score, my credit, history. But think about how you can help your community with your credit. I have 4 different authorized users on my credit card. My first ever credit card that I got, which is my 3 younger brothers and my niece. And I really wanted to make sure that they were solid when they did want to start getting their first types of credit. Maybe it was their first car loan. Maybe it was their, first credit card that they get on their own without being authorized under someone else. It was a lot easier for them to do that because I added them as authorized users first. And it's really fairly easy to do. You literally just have to log into your credit card portal and look for authorized user, or you can call the credit card company and ask to add an authorized user. But the really nice thing is, this person that you're adding gets to piggyback off of all of your positive credit history and credit behavior. So if you have really solid credit and you're in good standing with all of your accounts, now this person who you're adding as an authorized user gets to benefit from that, and it gets reflected on their credit report as well. So there's people I know personally who have added their babies, like 2-year-old, to their credit card as an authorized user. And this 2-year-old had perfect credit, better credit than the majority of Americans, right? So it's a really nice thing to set up the next generation, or set up, the ones coming after you with solid credit. But you have to make sure your credit is right before you try doing that, because obviously they're piggybacking off your credit. So if you have some negative remarks on your credit, if your credit is really not solid, then it's really going to be more harmful than it is helpful to them if you add them as an authorized user. So just, be mindful of that. Make sure that you're paying attention to that. Can you add me as an authorized user, please? So here's the thing, Sherwin. I think Sherwin, Manila. I think there's a limit on how many you can do. Now, I mean, look, I'm not even gonna lie. I wouldn't consider adding you. I don't know you, love, but if it's family, then I would do it, right? With my 3 brothers and my niece, that's family. But I do also just note that some credit cards do have a limit on how many authorized users you can have per card. So my very first credit card ever was my student credit card that I got in college, which was a Bank of America card. And that one had a limit on how many I could put. I could only put 4 authorized users on that card. And then I have another card, a Chase card, that doesn't, I don't think there's any limit. And if there is, it's pretty high, like 7 or 8 authorized users. So just be aware, like some people might want to help you, but they might not have room to add you as an authorized user. They might intend to help or can't. But it's definitely worth asking people that you know and trust, maybe somebody in your family, like an auntie and uncle, an older cousin, a grandma, somebody who has a long credit history. If you're lucky enough and privileged enough to have adults in your family that have established positive credit history. My mom and dad don't have credit scores. They don't have credit profiles. They don't even, there's no credit history in their names, right? Because the way that their journey worked out financially is they were cash only and they never got loans or credit cards in their names. So I wasn't able to have my parents add me as an authorized user. But you better believe I'm adding my nieces and nephews and my little brothers as authorized users. I can be the one to start new cycles and really look ahead and help them out and set them up in a way where, unfortunately, I didn't get set up like that, but it just wasn't an opportunity that my parents were able to offer me. I can, though. I can offer it to them. So like, just be aware, if you can, or if you don't have access to anybody who can help you boost your credit, just be aware, hey, everybody doesn't have this privilege and this access to social capital, to somebody else who figured out credit and has positive credit history in their name. So just be aware of that. Welcome, Sasa Savage on YouTube. Oh, wow. I caught a live. Yes. This is a late one. I usually try to do them before like 8 p.m. Eastern, but today I had a flight that was literally at 7:30 p.m. and I didn't land until 8:30 p.m. Central Time here in Texas. So by the time I checked into my hotel room, unpacked, did all my things, freshened up, got the camera set up, it's late. It's real late, but I'm going to go for a little longer, answer some questions, but I really do have to go to bed because I'm up early tomorrow morning with another teacher training. So I'm going to definitely, be on, but answering for a little bit longer, but not too long. Okay, so we talked about banking, budgeting, credit, investing. You definitely have to start your investing journey if you haven't already, even just with the bare minimum, which is, can you just check with your job? Do they offer you any retirement plans? If they have a 401k, check it out, sign up. Even if you only put a tiny little percentage of your paycheck, like 1%, it's the point is to just start, because that's how you're going to learn. You're going to be able to see what's happening in that account and check up on it every few months and learn from what's happening, or at least see things that you'll have questions about. Hey, what is that? What does that mean? What are those letters? What does this percentage mean? And that's how you start learning. You learn by doing, or at least I do. I really do learn by doing. It's one thing to read about things or to hear me talk about it. It's another thing for you to actually start doing it, and then you'll learn by doing it, or you'll have questions that you can ask about the process that will help you learn more as you go. So if you don't have any investment accounts in your name at all right now, first of all, if you're under 18, you can still get investment accounts in your name. That's a big myth that a lot of young people tell me, oh, I can't invest because I'm under 18. That's okay. You can still open a custodial account. You just need a custodian. You need a chaperone. You need an adult who's going to vouch for you and help you open that account. That can be a custodial brokerage account, which is a taxable account, or it could be a custodial Roth IRA if you have any type of earned income from passive income, from social media income, from side jobs that you do, from DoorDash delivery, whatever. Y'all be real crafty these days. Young people be making money. All right. So as long as you have earned income, you can contribute some of that or all of that into a custodial Roth IRA. So don't be afraid to start learning about the market, even if you're young. You can start investing even if you are under 18. And then if you're over 18, it's definitely a good opportunity to start investing by looking at either a regular brokerage account or a retirement account. I always say start with a retirement account first, just because of the tax advantages, the benefits of a Roth IRA, of a traditional IRA, of a 401k, of a 403b. These types of accounts, they have special tax privileges that you will not get in a regular brokerage account. So it's so important for you to try to take advantage of those. And then if you still have money left over after you started retirement investing, you can go back and invest in a regular brokerage account. But if you're like scared, if you're like nervous, I put a reel just today on my Instagram about some of the books that I've read that helped me get started and like stop being afraid to jump in. The main one that helped me to get my passive investment strategy in place was The Simple Path to Wealth by J.L. Collins. I love that book. And if you just want to kind of learn a little bit more about the way I've invested and my knowledge around investing, check out my book. It's called Mind Your Money, and chapter 7 is all about investing. All right, let's take a look at some of these questions. Don't you take the risk of ruining your credit though when you add someone as an authorized user? Great question, Sharon. Yes, you do take the risk. So what I did to basically mitigate that risk is I don't give the actual credit card to my little brothers or to my niece. They don't have the physical credit card, even though it has their name on it. It's in my wallet, like, or at home in my drawer. Like, they don't have access to the card, because if they decided to go and, I don't know, buy everybody in their dorm room pizza and then put it on the card, and then they say, oh, I can't afford to pay that back, I'm sorry, who's ultimately responsible for paying everybody's pizza in the dorm? Me, because I'm the primary person who added that authorized user, which means I'm saying anything they buy, they're authorized to spend on my account. And if they can't pay it, I am saying I'll pay it. So you have to be aware that you're taking on that responsibility. And if they use that card poorly and they make late payments or they don't keep up, it will hurt your credit too. And vice versa. If I'm the primary person and my credit starts to go down and I start doing things like late payments and not paying things, that will also hurt the authorized user if it's on that same account that they're authorized to use. So just be really mindful. Like, once you have an authorized user, you guys are a team now. Like, your whole job, your whole goal is to keep that account in good standing and work together to make sure that every single month the bills are paid, the credit card bills paid, and that you guys are not doing anything that's going to harm that account in any way, like late payment, forgetting to pay, spending too close to the credit limit, those kinds of things that would harm your credit score. All right, let's see. Yaneli, this is Bebe Beverly. I've been following you for a while now, and I want to thank you for replying to my DM back in 2020. Oh my God, in the thick of COVID. It really made my day, and I never forgot the support you made me feel when I needed it most. Thank you so much. That is so sweet. Thank you for joining the live and putting that comment. Honestly, y'all just be y'all just be like surprising me when I get messages from you guys that I'm like, I did not expect to read that. Randomly one day I'll wake up and I'll get an email from someone being like, you changed my life. You probably don't even remember this, but you did this, or you answered this question, or you sent me this resource, or you made this video. And I'm just like, okay, those are the little things that help me know, like, I'm really on the right track in terms of doing what I wanted to do with this channel and with this brand, which is be helpful. Literally call myself Miss Be Helpful, because I just wanted to be helpful. I want to make sure everybody else got help with this area, because it's something that I didn't really have any help with. So please keep all of those little stories and anecdotes coming. Let me know, slide in my DMs, or send me an email if there's anything that has touched you that you feel like you want to share, because it really does make a big difference. Like, it lightens up my day. It definitely helps me just stay motivated to keep doing this, even though it's late at night and I could have just went to sleep. But nope, I'm going live because I want to connect with y'all. I want to answer questions and just kind of keep the community vibe going. Keyway, by any means necessary, showing up at that dorm function. Yeah, okay, but with my credit card though. So honestly, I think the biggest thing is having a conversation. If you are going to ask somebody as an authorized user, or if you're an authorized user on somebody's card, have that conversation. Hey, what are the rules? What am I allowed to do? Am I even going to have the credit card? Or are you just going to keep it? My niece and my younger brothers, they didn't have no problem with me keeping the credit cards and not giving it to them, because all they cared about was the fact that I was helping them to get a head start and boost their credit early. They wanted that. They just wanted the benefits. They didn't really want to get the physical credit card to go spending. In a couple months, 6 months, 7 months after I added them, they could go and apply for their own credit card. They're very likely to get approved since they already are an authorized user on my account. So just make sure you have that conversation, because it can be a little bit awkward if you don't discuss it, and then somebody's just doing things with the credit card that you're not okay with, but you never really established the ground rules, right? So just make sure those conversations happen beforehand. Queen Swatson on Instagram says, so authorized users receive correspondence from the credit company regarding their credit standing. Yes, once you're an authorized user, you will be getting emails from the credit card company because you have a credit card with them. Like you have an account in your name with them. It's just connected. It's the exact same account linked to the exact same account as the primary account holder. So for example, my little brother has a credit card that I authorized him on my account. If he was to go use that credit card to pay for gas, when I log in on the app on my phone, I'm going to see that gas charge. It's going to look like I did it, but it's just going to show that it was his card, not mine. Same card numbers, just, the name of the person who spent next to them. So you can kind of see, even though there's two users, it's one account. So if he doesn't pay that, I have to pay it because it's all due on the same statement. It's not like you get two separate credit cards with two separate statements, two separate accounts, two separate limits. No, it's the same spending limit in the same spending account with the same statement cycle every month. So y'all are basically working as a team. And so that's why I need to talk it out and make sure that as a team, you agree on how this account is going to be used and what the rules are. Obviously, the primary account holder is probably the person who's going to set the rules because they're doing a favor to the authorized user and adding them in the first place. So, but just make sure that those ground rules are established. All right, let's see. You're amazing. When I was opening up a Roth, I was so nervous and I had questions and I hit you up in the DMs and you answered them and reassured me. Thank you. Queen, thank you. Thank you. Honestly, I feel like one of the big things is people don't really think I'm going to answer the DM. I'm not at that level where I have like 5 million followers and I can't be in the DMs. Like, and you have to like hire those bots or like pay for those bots to respond to the DMs or hire people to do it. It's all me. It's just me, y'all. It's little old me. So if you want to chat with me or you have a question for me or you want me to send a resource, just DM me. Like I generally do answer as long as you're not a creep. Some of y'all be doing too much. But if it's just a regular question or regular thing that you're wondering about or just a little bit of feedback, yeah, just message me. I'm generally pretty active on my phone, especially when I'm out and about. I'll check it. I'll check it when I'm at the airport, check it when I'm in an Uber. I'll check it when I have downtime. So it's me in the DMs. I don't have a team that's like pretending to be me talking to y'all. Like it is me. It's me, you guys. It is all me. Do you prefer dollar cost averaging or buying your own stocks? I currently prefer dollar cost averaging just because I have a very passive approach to investing. My focus is not to focus on actual investing tactics and how I can like maximize the investments that I'm making. My goal right now is to maximize the income that I'm generating every year so I can take a big huge chunk of that and invest more. So I really like the passive investment strategy where you have index funds, you have ETFs, low cost, automated. Every single month, you just keep adding money to it and just keep buying more shares of the funds that you like and you have in your account. And the goal is really just more money. More money needs to go into the machine, into the engine. So like my focus should not be on which stocks am I going to pick to buy today. My focus should be on how can I make more money to throw into the funds that buy more stocks in my ETFs and index funds. Like I just need to keep buying, just keep buying. Oh, if you haven't read that book, Just Keep Buying by Nick Majuli, excellent book. He's a really good friend. Highly recommend you check it out because it talks about the importance of cash flowing, appreciating assets. Cash flowing, appreciating assets, right? So that's the huge piece that you have to take away from that book. But the title is very telling. Just keep buying. Stop trying to time the market, pick and choose, get in and get out at the right time, buy more shares of this because it's hot. Like there's always going to be something trending. But if you just keep adding money, if you just, and the more money that you add, the more compounding, the faster you reach your goals. So where my head is at right now is how can I maximize the amount of money that I'm generating? How can I increase my skills? How can I increase my reach? How can I leverage my social media? How can I leverage my speaking and presentation skills? How can I get more book sales? How can I support more schools? How can I, increase my income professionally, right? With my work so that the more money I make, the more money I can take off the top and invest it into a passive income strategy, which just dollar cost averages. The more money you make, the more dollars you can cost average every month into your investment accounts. So if you're really, really young right now, you're probably tempted to start paying attention to things. I think there was a YouTube question here, which was about options, right? Like, do you invest in options contracts at all? Lint away duct cleaning on YouTube asked me that. I don't. again, that's all complex. It takes much more time. It takes much more, at the end of the day, you have to be a little bit more specialized to really go through and understand what you're doing. It's much more risky. And a lot of times getting involved with margin on that we're talking about leverage, which is really risky, losing money and also potentially owing money. If you just keep putting money into a dollar cost average strategy, an ETF or an index fund, and the fund doesn't do well, yeah, you could lose up to all the money that you put in, but you can't be in debt to the mutual fund company or the ETF, or you can be in debt to the brokerage firm where you invested with. But if you're doing options, if you're trading on margin, you can very quickly end up in debt because of some of those riskier trades. And especially if you don't really fully understand, they're pretty complex vehicles when you start looking at derivatives. And if you don't really understand them clearly and know the complexities and know what you're doing, you can easily end up in a pickle. So I focus on the basics. And I think most everyday people should focus on the basics. Now, if you already mastered all the basics, you implemented them all, and you're on that next level, and I'm not talking to you, then that's fine. But if you're not on that next level, then it's not for you. Focus on the basic passive investment strategies and look elsewhere. What can you do to make this world better that also makes you good money? What are your skills and talents? What can you contribute? What problems can you solve? How can you make more money so that you can take more of that money and invest it, right? If you can shift your thinking to that and stop trying to focus on maximizing returns on picking this stock or that stock, because unless you have a heck of a lot of money, like if you have $1 million and you make a 20% return, incredible. That's 200 grand. That's incredible. But if you have $1,000 in there and you're making a 20% return, that's not that impressive. That's not that much money. We're not talking about life-changing money here. So how can we get larger amounts of money in so that any upward swing is actually a big impact on your financial picture? The only way to do that is to start talking about six figures in your account. Is to start talking about multiple six figures in your account. Is to have the goal of becoming a millionaire or multimillionaire or more. So we got to stop doing the little, oh, I made $500 on Tesla stock. Oh, I made $600 on Nvidia last time. Oh, I heard Palantir went up and I made $1,000 on that. Okay, all of those amounts of money are not life-changing, guys. Life-changing money, we're talking about multiple six figures, and that means you have to do that over a long period of time. Generational wealth is created in generations. It's not overnight. It's not some like get rich quick. It's not like I made this options contract trade that made me all this money. Like, I mean, sure, if you enjoy it and you really see it as like a hobby that you really like, that's completely different. But if it's not really calling you, you don't got to do it. Don't feel pressured to do that. You don't have to do all that extra stuff. The simple ways to build wealth are super effective, and it allows you to free up your time to go find out what you love doing and how to make more money and increase your talents, increase your, skills. And that to me is worth much more time. Spending time with my family means much more to me than, looking at the financial statements of the recent stocks that are in my portfolio. Like, for me personally, again, if you'd rather look at the financial statements of a recent company that you invested in instead of spending time with your family, just be real with yourself that that's what your preference is. But don't feel like, oh, I have to sacrifice time with my friends and family because I have to go and look at these financial statements from these companies because I have to do that. No, you don't. You can set up a very passive, hands off, set it and forget it approach, dollar cost averaging, all of these terms you can just Google and read about. That doesn't require you to do all that. You don't got to do all that. Oof. All right. We got a lot of questions on YouTube. So I'm going to switch over to YouTube's real quick. I think there was one more. Just lifting again. Which platform do you recommend? Fidelity, Schwab, another, which index, Vanguards? Honestly, all of them are great. Everything you said is awesome. So just pick one. Any, many, many more. It doesn't really matter that much. They are all excellent. It's, to me, people just waste too much time trying to say, oh, but which brokerage should I go with? Just pick one. Literally anyone. Fidelity, Vanguard, Schwab, any, mini, miny, mo. Pick one and start. Every day that you waste trying to, this is a very micro, not very important decision that you're making. The decision that you're making that matters is the account you're opening, how much money you're going to contribute, what funds you're buying. So just open an account at a major discount brokerage service, like any one of those big three is great, and start putting money into an account and start using it to buy shares of funds that you like, index funds, ETFs. just start, because again, you could waste so much time on these little decisions that in the grand scheme of things, it don't really matter. Because if you start with one and you don't love it, you can always switch it to another. You can always change it later. These are not set in stone, right? So don't take more than 20, I would not 20 minutes, maybe just don't take more than one day to decide. Read a couple articles, maybe watch some video reviews, maybe look at customer service comments online about which one you think you're going to go lean towards, and then just pick one and start. All right, let's head on over to YouTube's comments. All right, where in Texas are you? I was in Dallas today all day, and then I flew from Dallas to Houston. I'm in Houston all day tomorrow for a teacher training, and then I fly back home to Miami. And then next week, I think I'll be back in Austin. I'll be back in Texas again for another teacher training in Austin, or maybe the week after. But anyway, we're doing 3 major big teacher training events in Texas through the work that I do with NGPF and financial literacy education. So the first one was Dallas, the second one is Houston, and the third one is Austin. So 3 major events, and we're hoping to spread the word to more teachers about financial literacy education is coming to Texas. All right, long-term bullish option contracts on triple leverage NASDAQ TQQQ. Look, if that's your thing, that's your thing. But you heard my opinion on all of that. It's like you can do it, but you're trading, and I think Alan said it well in the chat, which is options is not really investments. It's speculation and trading, and those are very different. I think when people say the investing, they like to make it a big category that includes all these things under it. But investing really is looking at the long view. If you're interested in trading, if you're interested in options, if you're interested in derivatives and a lot of that stuff, that I wouldn't necessarily put that under investing. I separate that out to trading. And I think that language helps to differentiate between what exactly are you trying to do? Are you trying to do stuff actively all the time, be looking at it and be crunching numbers and be looking at it and setting up trades and putting stops and stop losses in place? Or are you having a much simpler approach where you literally just set it automatically to keep taking money out of your checking account every month and adding it to your investment account? Like, this one is super easy over here. This one over here is not so easy and is much more involved. So like, people can pick and choose. And for me, the passive approach just works better with my lifestyle. All right. Do you think I should continue investing if I have fully funded my emergency fund, but might face a layoff? Sure. I think if you're fully funded with your emergency fund, depending on how comfortable you are with how much your emergency fund is. If your emergency fund is like 3 months, maybe you feel a little bit more comfortable hitting 4 or 5 months. So you give yourself more wiggle room to find a new job if you do deal with the layoff. But if you feel like you already have 6 months of emergency fund savings and you're comfortable with that, keep investing. And then once the layoff actually, if the layoff, you don't even know if it's coming, if it does actually hit where you're dealing with unemployment, then at that point you can pause your investing. You can pause your investing at any time for any reason at all. It's nobody's business but yours. Now, you want to try not to continue interrupting investing. Remember, just keep buying, right? The money just has to keep going in, growing, so that in the long run you can benefit from a really large account balance. But if you keep stopping, or if you keep withdrawing, if you keep interrupting that compounding, it's going to be really hard for you to hit millionaire status if you keep doing that. It's going to be really hard for you to hit your first 100K if you just keep interrupting, or if you just keep withdrawing, or if you keep pausing. So try not to. But in the case of an emergency, like losing your job, that's totally fine to pause and come back later. All right, I think I got a couple more here. All right, amazing. I think I got all the questions that were in this chat. So the only other things that we didn't really quite talk about that I mentioned was insurance. I feel like I've been getting so many questions about insurance that I want to set up like a whole separate live just to talk about insurance. Again, I think the basic for this is if you do your mid-year financial review and you are looking at insurance, you're like, I don't have any insurance at all. First of all, look at your job. If you have an employer, a job that has some insurance benefits, start there. Look, because they're going to give you some nice perks. The fact that it's a benefit from your job, whether that's lower rate on life insurance, whether that's lower premium, that they cover some of it, or they just have a good deal with a certain company. Just check there first. And then if you've already exhausted that, or you don't really have any of those opportunities and you want a certain type of insurance, I would definitely say you should only really focus on it if you have the necessity to do it. Like, for example, for life insurance, most experts say you only need really to get a life insurance policy and start paying monthly premiums if you have somebody or multiple people who depend on your income every week, every month, right, to live. So if you are paying, if you have a child, or if you have a, parent, family members who you give them money to help with bills, to help with, household expenses, and they need you and they rely on that money, then it makes sense for you to have a life insurance policy, because if anything happened to you, the beneficiary on your life insurance policy would receive that money, and they would be able to continue doing all those things that you used to give them money for. But if you are only taking care of you right now, you got no kids, you're not responsible for helping your family, nobody really depends on you for money, it's probably not really necessary for you to set up a life insurance policy right now. Most experts would agree you don't really need it until you have dependents that really depend on your income, because that's what it is. It's an income replacement tool. So keep that in mind. If you think you need a policy, then probably start doing some research. But if you really recognize, like, oh, I guess I thought I wanted to get life insurance, but since it sounds like I don't really have a need for it because I don't have anybody depending on my income, maybe I'll just put it off for another year and then come back to it in my financial plan next year. And that's totally fine, right? Most experts agree you don't have to pressure yourself to do something just because everybody's talking about it and everyone's saying you should. It's if it's appropriate to your situation, to your life, then consider it. Um, all right, y'all. Gems being dropped. Thank you, investment coach Wahida. I appreciate it. All right, cool. I think I'm going to wrap this up here because it's getting a little late and I definitely want to take a shower and go to bed. I'm going to be in Houston tomorrow. If anybody is in the Houston area on Wednesday, June 17th, nope, Wednesday, June 18th, I'm going to be in Houston, Texas. So hit me up. I'll be doing a teacher training from 8 to 3 p.m. ish. And then I have probably like 2 or 3 hours where I'll be like probably at a coffee shop until I go to the airport. So if you're in Houston and you want to come by and say what's up before I leave, DM me, let me know, and maybe we'll be able to do a little coffee shop meetup. All right, y'all. Till tomorrow. Peace out.